Welcome to the Thought Echoes podcast, where we have an opportunity to listen in as people reflect on their relationship with their thoughts and their creative work and how it's changed since their brain injury. My name is Beth Boness, host of the Thought Echoes podcast. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this month's interview.
Hi there. I'm Joe Borges. I am the host of the NeuroNerds podcast, and I survived a high blood pressure induced hemorrhagic stroke in 2016. That was not fun. It was my favorite thing in the world. Before the brain injury, I man of many hats. I owned a retail shop. I worked in retail for years. And I ignored my health for years, and that kind of led into the stroke. So I suffered from migraines my entire adult life, and I just assumed that the migraines were hereditary because every single one of my family members has migraines. So I was like, oh, it's just my turn. Turns out it wasn't migraines that ran in my family. It was unchecked high blood pressure. And my blood pressure was so high that it ruptured my right basal ganglia. And that's how I had my stroke. And I had my stroke in the parking lot on the way to my significant other's show. She's a musician, and you'll hear this a lot in the brain injury community, in the stroke community. I had the worst headache I've ever had in my life. And I really didn't want to go home. So I actually drove to the venue. In the parking lot. On my way to the venue, I felt the rupture. I actually heard in my ear a pop. And for a split second, it felt good because all that pressure was relieved. And a few seconds later, I felt like a baby deer learning how to walk. And then there was a patch of time from that moment until about 2 months later where I don't really have any memory. Everything that came to me is secondhand information.
Wow. Did they diagnose the unchecked blood pressure? At what point did they say that was the reason?
When I went in, apparently. So they saw my blood pressure and they're like, wow, like it was astoundingly high. And that's what it was. It was years and years of just high blood pressure that weakened the walls of the vessel in my brain. And it finally, my body was like, that's enough, calm down. And it ruptured. And so I had a hemorrhagic stroke. And the type of stroke I had, that's the one that most people don't make it back from. I'm 1 in 4.
Wow.
So that's I feel blessed to be here, and I feel like I made it back for a reason. I feel like my reason is to help our community.
Well, it's wonderful to do that. It's awful that it takes these kind of life events that kind of shake us up to kind of, with everything that we're doing. I know there's a big chunk of time you don't remember right after the stroke, but if you can kind of go back in time a bit and talk about your relationship kind of with your thoughts, the mental chatter that was going on, and then what the contrast was once you were able to kind of move around the cabin of life again,
right?
And how you just kind of saw what your relationship with your thoughts and sense of self was before and after.
I didn't really have much sense of self before. I joke around all the time. I'm a recovering Catholic, so I was brought up to not talk about your feelings, to not burden or inconvenience anyone, just to take those feelings, just shove them down. So I did that for my entire life, and that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. So I said for years, I can't meditate. My significant other, she was like, you should meditate. It's good for you. It's going to help your brain. I'm like, I can't do it. Like I literally said for years, I can't meditate because I would go to very dark places very quickly. And I just couldn't do it. After the stroke, once I started, that was the great reset. It really was. It shifted everything. I fundamentally changed everything about the way that I live, the way that I think, the way that I talk, eat, walk, process. And I started to meditate. So I actually got to think about things. I actually got to process old traumas, which is wild. I didn't know that was a thing that people did. And I went to therapy. I talked about things that I never thought I would talk to another person about. And it wasn't to sit in those feelings. It was to kind of release them, to let them go. And I never thought about that. I just held on to everything so much. I held on to it so tightly. And I never talked about anything. It was kind of like all that pressure built and I didn't have any way to vent it out. So it eventually vented in my
Yeah,
right
your
basal ganglia.
brain.
So now I meditate every single day. I've meditated every day for going on 6 years now.
Oh, that's great.
The first year I tried, but I still wasn't really processing too much after my stroke.
Mhm.
But every single day since, I've meditated at least once a day. It's how I start my days. It's how I start my mornings every single morning, and it's changed the way that I think. It's helped me deal with these stressful, triggering situations.
Mhm.
It's helped me, visualize my day, what it's going to be. And even in those really dark, troubling moments, I understand now they're just moments in time. It's not forever. That chaotic feeling, it's not permanent. It's just right now. So if it wasn't for meditation and actually like tuning in with how I'm feeling like in the moment, I don't know if I would have gotten this far.
Wow. So in thinking about before not talking about your feelings at all, like you
Mhm.
say, do you have moments where you realize how far you've come? And so that the
Yes.
contrast.
100%. Every day I have those moments, especially when things are challenging. When things are challenging, so for 30 plus years of my life, I went about things a certain way. I was surrounded by negativity, and unfortunately, I that became my normal.
Oh,
So if I'm around negative people, it's such a weird thing because I'm very much a positive person now. I'm very,
you
hey, things are
that's
good.
what you exude. That's what you exude.
Because it feels good. It feels so good, like it really does. But if I'm around people who are like everything sucks and things are terrible, there's something deep in me that
Mm,
is like, yeah, everything sucks. And this is what's frightening. It feels good because it feels normal. It's the
mm,
way that I grew up. It's
mm.
the way that my household was. It was the way that my mother brought me up. Everything is terrible. People are against us. We're cursed. It's bad luck. It's a horrible thing. There's no hope when you're in that mindset. So
Yeah.
if I'm around certain people who are negative like that, I start to like lean into that. And I'm like, no, 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 I don't want that. So I have to put up these boundaries and I have to keep myself in a good place because it's almost like I'm a drug addict, but like mentally.
Yeah.
And that negativity is a drug. And I was addicted to it for years. And I finally detoxed. I got that out of my body. And I need to keep myself around positive people or else I'm going to dip again.
Wow. That must be hard with family being part of the relation. I mean, it's one thing if you've
Oof.
got peers and, friends you can kind of let go more easily than family, which
Right.
so how do you do that? How do you
It
do
was
that?
very difficult. It was one of the most difficult things I had to do. But at a certain point, I had to choose me. And that's a difficult thing to do, especially
Mhm.
being raised the way that I was raised.
Yeah.
You always want to help other people and you always put people ahead of you. But at a certain point, it's you. And when it comes to meditation too, it's helped me realize at the end of every single day, it's just you. Even
Mm,
if you're in the same bed with your partner,
right.
when you close your eyes, it's
Right.
just you.
You.
It's just you. When you wake up, the exact same thing. So you have to take care of you first. And
Mm,
I had to put my health ahead of everybody else. Like I did. I had to heal myself mentally and physically. And I had to let my fan keep them at a distance and let a couple of people go.
mm.
And it's not permanent, I hope, but there's nothing I can do. I'm just holding up my end
Right.
and I need to heal right now. And so I describe it as I was a caterpillar
Yeah.
and after the brain injury, I went in my cocoon for a month in the hospital. And when I came out, I started to spread my wings and I
What a
learned how to
great,
fly.
that's a nice
So,
metaphor.
so I'm soaring through the sky and it's beautiful up here. It's warm, blue skies. My family, unfortunately, they're still caterpillars and they're crawling in the dirt. So when I talk to them about how blue the sky is, they don't understand what I'm saying. All they want to do is talk about how dark and dingy and dirty it is down there. And I'm like, it's beautiful up here. All you have to do is evolve.
Mm,
So the thing is, they can evolve and meet me up here. I can't go back to crawling in the dirt.
mm,
So that's where we're at right now. We're slowly getting there. But when I
mm.
say slowly, it's
Slow.
slow.
Well, being honest, I mean, so I can imagine what a huge hurdle that was to you. You were in that space in your head, but then actually doing it one by one for the people you'd have to
Yeah.
but after you do it, then that's got to feel good, even though there's obviously going to be some pain associated with the relationships. But I would think that was a huge step for you.
Massive. It
Yeah.
was massive. And there always is that guilt that you carry. And again, recovering Catholic, of course I
Yeah.
carry guilt. So there's that guilt of, but that's your family. but
Mm-hmm.
that's your family. Now, here's the thing, family should not want you to suffer. You
Right.
know, just like me, I don't want them to suffer. I
Mm-hmm.
was hurting myself fighting them so they would make better decisions for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I think about it now, I was like, I wasn't helping myself. I
Yeah.
wasn't helping them. So literally, I can't control you. I can only give you the tools. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to use them, I can't
Right.
put them in your hands. I can't force you to do these things. So I've given them the tools. I'm here whenever they want. I can't harm myself anymore. So I'm on my journey, and if they want to come meet me, I am open arms, you know?
I,
And
um,
we all grow. Unfortunately, most of the time we grow apart. So I've grown apart from a lot of people.
mm,
But in replacement, I've met some of the most amazing people that have, oh my gosh, included, you know,
mm.
people who I will be friends with the rest of my life. I'm not saying they're replacing family, but they're
No,
exactly who I need right now on this journey.
right. And family is such a, there's a family by birth and there's family by choice. And so that,
Yes. Yes. You
that's,
know how I describe that? You know
hmm,
when you're a kid and your parents buy you clothes? You're
yeah.
like, I don't want that. Yeah, but that's what you're gonna wear because I bought that for you and you're gonna wear those clothes. As soon as you make your own money and you're like, you get to choose your own clothes. Whatever you
Right.
buy,
Yes,
that
yes, that's
means
good.
everything. So the same
Yeah.
thing with friends. The
Hmm.
friends that you choose to become family mean everything to you. Your
Yep.
family was given to you. You
Right.
love them. You don't necessarily have to like them.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so the friends that I have chosen that have become my family mean everything to me.
So tell me about the blue sky, the work that you're doing now. So some of the creative projects that you're working on where you're choosing to spend your energy.
Oh wow, that's a lot of energy being spent, especially of late. When I first got home from the hospital, it was really hard for me. It was the most isolating situation I've ever been in. Now, isolation doesn't come from not having people around because I had a lot of people around. I just wasn't understood after having a brain injury. I'm an alien in my body and brain. You know, I was a stranger to myself, and nobody understood that. So I felt so isolated. It wasn't until I started talking to other brain injury survivors where I was like, oh, you understand. I felt, and I hate using a term, but I felt normal again. We're
Hmm.
all normal. It's a bit of a new normal, but I felt normal. Like we speak the same language.
Right.
I couldn't find anybody. In physical therapy, occupational therapy, it was older people, people in their 70s and 80s, which is okay. We can talk, but
Hmm.
again, it
Yeah.
makes a little bit more sense at that age as opposed to me. I was in my 30s at the time. And I wanted to reach out to other younger survivors so we can just have a conversation of what it's like. So I met by chance this woman who had a major concussion at a party, and she was going through the same thing, the same stuff that I was going through, and nobody understood. We met for
Hmm.
coffee once, and it was the first time in my recovery where I'm like, I'm going to be able to do this. I
Uh,
have somebody. It felt so good that I was like, we should do this every week. We should start a podcast.
mhm.
Selfishly, it was just for us to have an excuse to hang out. It turned into right now over 220 episodes. We're in
Wow.
like 60 different countries, and we're helping people around the world connect and build community. And that's all I've ever wanted. So I'm working with several organizations. I'm putting on the first ever of its kind in the metaverse, a fundraiser concert telethon.
Isn't that tomorrow?
It is. It is Saturday the 9th. It's called Brain, Body, and Soul Fest, where we have singers, brain injury survivors, and advocates from around the world sending in performances, sending in dance videos because that's their form of art, creating physical art. I have a
Mm.
brain injury survivor who's creating a brain out of masking tape. It's phenomenal. I didn't even know that that was a thing, but it's incredible. We have
It's
some people who are going to show adaptive yoga. So
mm,
it's just stuff that I want to do to give back to the community and also show people in our community that look what can be done.
hmm.
Look what can be done. Anything can be done. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something. There's hope out there. And I want to give hope to everybody in our community and show that, hey, you can even go to a concert. You don't necessarily want to be at Coachella with thousands of people, smells, bumps,
Right.
uneven pavement in the metaverse, in
Right.
in this space. You just like any professional athlete that jumps in, we're all on the same playing field. We're doing the exact same thing in the comfort of our own home. And it's such a beautiful thing.
That's fabulous. And I'll put that information, even though you've done all your advertising, I'll still do the snapshot of it because I'm sure there'll be recordings and follow-up
Oh,
stuff
of course.
afterwards.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I will definitely do that. So looking at what advice that you'd give, you were in your 30s, I was 49, so still young, because, you know, if you
Oh, no,
think
no
about
quote
the
fingers.
70s
That's
or 80s,
absolutely young.
you know, that what advice would you give to somebody who's had a recent brain injury? And then the same corollary, what advice would you give to a caregiver in the ecosystem of trying to support this person who's had a brain injury?
I'll tell both of them the exact same thing. Connect with somebody. It's one thing to talk to doctors, right? Doctors, therapists, they're reading books, they're studying. When you talk to another survivor or another caregiver, they've been through the dirt. I describe us almost as soldiers in war. When a soldier comes back from war, it's hard for him or her to relate to regular people who are going to the store and seeing movies because he's seen war. We've been to battle with our own brains. Nobody understands what that's like except for us. We need to talk to somebody who has a brain injury because they understand neural fatigue. They understand overstimulation. They understand the instant feeling of overwhelm, cognitive issues, physical issues. Like we understand that. There's a comfort and understanding in sharing that. It's a heavy weight to carry living with a brain injury. Also, to be a caregiver to somebody with a brain injury, it's a heavy weight. When you start sharing these stories, when you start connecting with other people, these people are carrying a little bit of that weight. They're helping you. They can help you. They can help you on tough days. They can help motivate you when you don't get out of bed. And on the flip side, when you're in a good place, you can actually help them on their down days. This is a community thing. We are part of the most beautiful, amazing community in the world. The dues suck to be in this community, but once you're here, it is fantastic. Everyone is caring, everybody's loving, everybody's very helpful. So best advice, connect with somebody if you can. Go to the socials. That's what I did. I literally went to social media and I put in hashtag stroke survivor. And like a lunatic, I just started reaching out to random people. I've done a thing since February of 2019. 2018. Wow. February of 2018. Every single day since that day, I've reached out to a stranger on the internet.
Oh my gosh.
And slowly but surely, that's how I've built community, is just connecting with people around the world. Because no matter where you're at, you had your stroke at 70, you had your stroke at 7. We all understand what it's like to live with a brain injury. And so recovery is a puzzle. And when you're in the hospital, they give you the outline, the straight pieces, the corners, they give you that. They leave out the middle. Every single time you talk to another survivor, they'll give you another piece of the puzzle. And the same thing with caregivers. Caregivers need care too. There's no manual to tell you how to take care of somebody with a brain injury, just like there's no manual to tell you how to live with a brain injury. We have to talk to each other to support one another. So that's the best advice I can do. Reach out for help. Don't be embarrassed about it. You're going to find somebody who's going to resonate with your energy, and you'll be friends the rest of your life.
Well, certainly as I mentioned, there are several stroke podcasts that tell stories with people, but the energy that you have about connecting with the community is a different energy. Everybody's well-intentioned, so don't get me wrong, but I think either I heard you say that about connecting with somebody, a new person a day, or I read about it in your bio or whatnot. But I mean, that's just fabulous. No wonder you're in 60 countries. I mean, was that when you talk about 60 countries, is that just where the reach is in terms of getting the analytics back from the podcast?
Yeah. And some people I've reached out to, so I'm like, oh yeah, I have a couple of people in Macedonia because I have a couple friends in Macedonia. But then random places, I'm like, oh wow, I wonder how they found me. I just think it's a beautiful thing. It's because no matter where you're at, a brain injury is a brain injury.
Right.
We wake up just as overwhelmed, just as overstimulated,
Right.
just as isolated and lonely and sad in any language, in any country, from any background. So we have to be there to support one another, because when it comes down to it, we're all on the same team. Like we're all in this together, and we have to help each other.
Right. So after this big event this weekend, what's your next? I mean, if this is a week ago, I'd be talking all about this event, but this is going to be over with come Sunday. So I think Joe will take a little downtime, maybe 15 minutes or something like that.
Possibly, maybe 14.
So what's your next project?
To start a brain injury cult. No, we're not going to start a brain injury cult. I'm still moving forward, restarting the podcast, and trying to get as many stories out there as possible, because I think everybody has a story. I don't want to hear, oh, my story isn't special. Every story is special, and there's some information that you have that is going to resonate with somebody and change the trajectory of their recovery. So we have to get that out there. I'm looking forward to partnering in with other, brain injury companies. Are you familiar with Maddie Kneebank and Tawny the Mermaid?
No.
Two of my really good friends,
Okay.
two huge advocates in the community, and we're
Right.
talking about partnering in on some projects moving forward. Maddie, it's Maddie's Stroke of Luck, and Tawny, it's Tawny the Mermaid. We just met for the first time in person recently. It's magical when you get to connect with your people, because a lot of, like, even Mimi is one of my friend soulmates. I knew her for years, and we were closer than any two human beings could be, and I never met her in person. So when I say reach out to somebody, they don't need to be next door
Right.
neighbors. They don't need to be in your state. They don't even need to be in our country. Okay. You're going to make some of the best friends you'll ever have by just reaching out. One of my best friends is from the UK. I've never met Bryony. I've never met her, but she's been one of my best friends for going on 5 years now.
Wow.
My first survivor friend was she had her stroke at 2.5 years old.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard that.
She has never known what it's like to feel one of her sides. She's an incredible artist, and she would hype me up on my bad days. So it has nothing to do with, oh, Joe, you're functional, you can walk, you can talk. It's like, no, I have a lot of cognitive issues. I have a lot. She was in a much better place, even though physically I was like, but I'm doing better. And I felt bad for complaining. And she literally one day, she was like, Joe, I'm doing better than you. And I was like, you are. You really are. So and she's from Australia, and we've never met, and we probably aren't going to meet, at least for the next couple of years, but she's still one of my best friends I'll ever have.
Well, I would think with COVID too, as much as we've all got Zoom fatigue and whatnot, the opportunity to reach out to people and virtually meet them outside of a business environment. I think, with all the Skype and everything, people were familiar doing it, and Facebook, I mean, FaceTime and whatnot, but still Zoom and COVID just kind of opened the door to spending more time, and it's the best you can do because of COVID. So whether they're in the UK or across the street, you still wouldn't be seeing them in person for a period of time. So
meeting a survivor and having a cup of virtual cup of coffee, it's beautiful. It's just such a nice connection just to sit down. And even right now, we're not in the same room. We're not even in the same state. This is a beautiful conversation we're having, and this energy exchange is special. Every single conversation I have with another survivor is special, and it just gives you, it's like Red Bull. It just amps you up.
Well, you sound like you're amped up all the time. I mean, so is your blood pressure is managed okay?
It is. It is.
Okay.
I'm able to have coffee, and I check my blood pressure frequently. And if it's too high, I don't get coffee. And I love coffee, so I will do anything and everything in my power to keep it. I'm on blood pressure medications to even it out, but I'm looking forward to one day not having to take them. So I'm working hard to get off of them, because labetalol sucks.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that after I had mine, and it took a couple of weeks for them to figure it out, they put me on so many different kinds of meds, and it's like, okay, I'm stabilized. They know what's wrong, and now I have to rest. But I wanted to get off my meds, and my husband went white as a ghost. He was like, "Why would you want to muck with? They finally got you stable." And the wave that hit me was, I'd been working on me. I mean, I had to be the project, but the impact that the slack he picked up with our 3 girls and all of that, and I'm quick to say, well, I'll go do this and that. And it's like, okay, so I really want to get off those meds. So if I do it with the doctor, is that, would you feel comfortable with that? And so that was the compromise. So
that's good.
Spreadsheet with Tai Chi and meditation and all the different exercise, what would work, and then do the blood work. And then, yes, you can cut your meds in half, but it took 3 years. But eventually,
it's a slow process. It's a slow process, but you're doing it the right way, and you're never going to have to go back on them, hopefully.
Right. That's the goal. Is there anything else? Thank you so much for your time and energy. I feel badly taking this away with your big event tomorrow. Like you must
Oh
have
no,
a
this
zillion things
is
to do.
again, it's beautiful to talk to another survivor and connect. Like it really is.
Is there anything else that you would like to leave? Thoughts of wisdom, words of wisdom?
Well, I'm a big idiot, so these are as wise of words as I can share. Connection is everything.
Mm.
It changed the trajectory of my recovery, which in turn changed the trajectory of my life. Connect with another survivor. It's not just for you. When I say connection means everything, and it sounds really grandiose, we can change the world. Like we really can, because you're changing not just the day, but you're changing the life of a survivor just by sharing a few kind words. They're going to feel better about themselves. They're going to have a little bit more motivation. They're going to be in a better mood when they talk to their friends and family and coworkers and strangers, which in turn, those friends, family, strangers, and coworkers are going to feel better. And they're going to have better interactions. And somehow, some way, we're going to have world peace. And it all starts with you reaching out and connecting. Never lose hope. Remember, you're never at this alone. There's always somebody behind you and pulling for you. Try to reach out and be that person for somebody else as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Joe, for this time. I really appreciate you taking the time in your busy schedule and sharing a bunch of your energy, which I thought I was energized before, but I think now I've gotten my red bull jolt from Joe. Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. This was great.
Thanks for joining me this month. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends, leave a comment, and subscribe. Until next month, take a moment and hug someone you love.